There we go. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go live on this. Okay, so welcome again to our bi-weekly, that's every 2 weeks, regular Delta RS open development meeting. Our agenda I had shared in Slack in the Delta RS channel, which if you're seeing this on YouTube, that can be found in the the Delta RS README. I'm seeing, I saw somebody knock at the lobby, but I can't actually see it on my screen. Let me go to a different view. Okay, sorry. Anyways, so the Delta RS Slack channel details are in the README on GitHub, and the agenda for today, I wanted to start off with Neville for a change, so that you can sort of give your Parquet update, and then we'll move on from there. After that, QP will talk about some of the bugs that we've had come in recently, and then I figure we can try to come to a decision on the atomic rename problems. But anyways, Neville, you're up.
Cool. I've substantively completed the 2.6 schema work. So that's passing the schema and printing the schema. I've got 2 PRs that are open currently. I'll grab the what's this? The PR numbers and put them in the chat after this. They're currently undergoing review. After that, I'm going to be able to work on the timestamp nanosecond support, and I can't remember what else. It's just 2 types of arrays that we can't write as a limitation because we didn't really support 2.6 yet. And then after that, I think I'll be done with the actual schema support of 2.6. So we'll be able to start reading a lot more types of files that are written with 2.6. So that was the main, I suppose, the gist of the work that I was doing. It was really to allow us to unblock us from being able to read and write 2.6 with logical types. And that's it.
Cool. With the changes that are pending right now, what do you think a timeline is for an Arrow crate to be released with the 2.6 writer support?
I saw on the mailing list that the next release is going to be around April, which coincides with a sort of three month cadence. There's a bug fix that, if I would guess, I would say middle to end of April.
Cool. And for anybody who's not already aware, the reason, like the Rust crate and the Python binaries, those depend on Git versions of the Arrow underlying crate. The big motivation to depend on a released version of the Arrow crate is so that we can publish a new Delta Lake crate to crates.io. But it's not blocking any of the Python work or any of the work that the Kafka Delta ingest work, which is downstream of Delta RS. Any questions for Neville? No, guess not. Cool. QP, you want to share some of the Python and Rust bugs that have come up, or discuss whatever you wanted to discuss on that topic?
Yep. So for the last 2 weeks, we have Florin has fixed 2 bugs with regards to schema handling in the Python binding, and I found that the S3 listing, there is a bug, and we have that fixed so that we can now load a table from S3 by a specific version. And Thomas has also been playing around with the pretty new write support for Delta RS, and he also found a bug where we during the write process we were reading duplicated transaction logs. So which it's a simple fix. So luckily. And another really good news is Misha has added on that news, Misha has added a single writer support for our S3 backend. So we are now at least feature comparative with the reference Scala implementation, which also only has single writer S3 support, and we're now working on multi-writer S3 support.
Woohoo!
Yep.
So excited.
That's it.
With I saw. I think Thomas was the fellow's name. With some of the writer bugs that he was working on, did we get any new test data that we could merge in for our test suite?
So there was some discussion about adding tests for that. For that particular case, it's not. So the test data we have today, it's enough to cover that. It's just that we need to add some more functionalities in Delta RS to expose some of the operational metrics for us to actually write the unit test.
I see. Is that I'm just looking at the GitHub issues. So we've got. Is that an actual filed? Is that the file high-level read API to return file content? No, that's not it.
No. Yeah, that one. So there were two bugs. One is a performance bug. The other one is a correctness bug. The performance bug has already been fixed.
So we're fast but incorrect.
Yeah. So we have the correctness bug that's still pending, but it should be a simple fix. That was the first one. Duplicate files after update.
Okay. I'll paste that in the channel as we. And that one's also listed as a good first issue. Woohoo!
Yep. So anyone can really grab it.
Cool. Anything else about some of these bugs that you wanted to discuss?
No, but we do have quite a bit of good first issues for those who want to learn about Rust or Delta Lake. So feel free to go through them. We're happy to help mentor new contributors on those issues.
Yeah. Cool. I just dropped a link for the YouTube channel later if anybody watches for the good first issues. Somewhat related, I'm kind of curious, did Florian cut a new release of the Python binding?
Not yet. So I'm going to cut one after this meeting.
Okay. I was actually more curious because that would be the first release that was not cut by you.
Yeah, that hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
Hopefully it will soon.
I apologize if my microphone is being a little noisy. All right, our next topic is the atomic rename support. So QP, Misha, and Christian, I think this is y'all.
Yes, so I've been looking into that library Dynamodb in Rust. From what it was, it actually looks just like an MVP with a single release, and it covers very basic operations, and it's actually unusable for production because there's no like recovery from failures whatsoever. They cover only very basic operations such as create acquire a log, release that, and move on. But if something happens wrong, like the log has died, there's no way to recover this unless you manually delete Dynamodb row, which will require like calling Dynamodb elsewhere without like using Dynamodb API. So in order to use that, we'll still need to write some Dynamodb related code. And also there's another Amazon Dynamodb log client, which is created by AWS Labs, and it also there's a lot of ports like to Node.js and Go, which actually like ports. And then I tested that, and it's actually fully functional for us. it supports both like acquiring logs, updating, and also fail. It's resilient, means that there's covers when some workers are died, and it's automatically cleaned by other workers or something like this. So and at the end, we should like work on the long term, like creating a Dynamo DB ports for Rust, like for Go library or Node.js, or if we like time sensitive, I would suggest like we use only basic logic and implement that within Delta RS.
Can you post a link to the AWS distributed lock implementation there? Okay, thank you.
So the main issue is that if you start worker, for example, worker A on Amazon Dynamodb, like Java client, and if it dies, then the other worker reads the previous lock item. It sees when lock is created, and it has, like, for example, list duration for 30 seconds. It waits 30 seconds and then deletes previous logs and creates new one. And that functionality of waiting and re-updating the log is missing in Dynamodb. So it should be created like either manually or So we need additional some code on top of the existence.
Right. I'm curious. Can y'all hear me all right? I had to tweak my mic.
I can hear you.
Okay. With the Spark implementation, is there just no atomic rename at all? Like, is this just functionality that's missing for S3 in the Spark implementation?
I have not looked into Spark implementation, actually.
I have. In the reference implementation, there is no pessimistic locking happening like this. It's basically there's a file, I can't quite remember the name of it. It's something like single driver S3 storage backend or something like that. So basically, it seems like they're funneling all of the S3 interactions through a single thread on the driver, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned earlier. The reference implementation only supports a single writer, like what we have today in Rust.
Sorry, I meant to chime in, but I completely forgot that I had muted myself. That is correct, because in essence, in order to ensure when they're doing the renames or the rewrites for the JSON, that basically it actually at that point, in order to be the most safe and easiest implementation, that was the idea, that we would only have a single writer.
I'm wondering. This is not something I think we necessarily need to decide now. And there's a fairly robust discussion, which I'll link in the Slack channel, that mostly, I think, actually entirely Christian and QP have been having around the create not exist guard, which I believe is related. Is this issue? Is the same thing, I think.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, yes.
But what comes to mind is that whatever functionality we add here, because if we are talking about DynamoDB being another dependency to have these safe multiple writers, that I think we'll need to provide a flag so that if you want to use the Python binding or the Rust crate directly, you won't have to, like, if you want to shoot from the hip and be cowboy coder, you can disable it and not have the requirement for DynamoDB in AWS.
Yeah, I think so. That our design, so we had two designs in that discussion. One of the design is move the transaction log entirely to DynamoDB. That design is more performance and safer from a lifeless point of view, but it has the downside that all the readers has to use DynamoDB as well. So we went with this locking design where only the writer needs to use DynamoDB, and readers can just use S3 without accessing DynamoDB at all. And so on what you said,
Makes sense.
making it configurable so that readers of the tables, they can just set the flag and then won't have to communicate with setup at DynamoDB at all. That will be helpful.
Well, what I was suggesting is that I think writers should be able to, let's say, opt out of safeness.
Yeah, so I guess, yeah, in that case, it would just become a single writer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you know better than us and you've deployed this and you don't have DynamoDB, but you only know that you're going to have one writer, I think Delta RS should support that.
Yep. There are other ways people can guarantee that only a single writer writes to a table.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Well, I mean, I'm not super concerned about those use cases. I just don't want to make this difficult to adopt for the first like kick in the tires setup. Like the more infrastructure you have to use any particular tool, the higher the burden of new users is going to be. So Misha and QP, maybe is there a specific thing we need to come to an agreement on, or is it just, yeah, we're going to use the DynamoDB lock client or a DynamoDB lock client for writes? Is that all we have to discuss?
Misha, you want to talk about it?
I'm not sure I quite understand the question, actually.
So
yeah, go ahead, QP.
So I guess the question is whether we have any ambiguity on how we want to move forward with the Atomic's rename support.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I basically want to. I was planning to start playing with it today, like moving implementation into Delta RS, but it took me a while with that file system atomic, right? The pull request, and then well, I'm planning to like starting working on that tomorrow with a moving pieces from a Java and Rust Dynalog into Delta RS and to see the results would be.
Yeah, so I guess we already decided that.
Yeah,
we want to implement that in Rust.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like this decision is made. We're going to implement it in Delta RS.
Yeah, ideally, it would be nice to have a full port like Go library and Node.js did, but it'll be time-consuming to port everything from Java client, since it's really rich. It supports like background threads, which sends heartbeats each second. So they fully support those errors. But I'm pretty sure for MVP we won't need all of that. So
could I make a suggestion? Maybe in Slack, could the three of you come to an agreement on the extent of what we'd be bringing into Delta RS to support this? Because I saw some discussion previously, like I don't think it makes sense for us to vendor Dynalock, for example, and make whatever changes we need in tree. I also don't think it makes sense for us to fork Dynalock and then have a bunch of additional, like have another dependency that we need to manage. But based on the thread that I've seen and the stuff that I've seen in the pull request, I don't think there's a definition of what the lock needs are that we would be bringing into Delta RS. Or if I'm talking out of my ass here and you all actually have defined this somewhere and I just didn't see it, please tell me.
Yeah, I don't think it's explicitly defined somewhere in a design doc. Yeah.
I'll fire up a thread in the Delta RS channel point to some spots in the design doc where we are that are relevant, and figure out like how much deeper we want to go in words explaining.
Well, like what I'm hearing is that there's two polls here. One is Dynalock, which doesn't have everything that we would need, and the other is like the AWS Labs DynamoDB lock client, some implementation of that, which has a lot of extra functionality. And what we actually need is somewhere between those 2 points. What I'm asking for is for somebody to actually write down what it is we actually need, so that we only implement what we need in Delta RS, and not implement Amazon DB or DynamoDB lock client in Rust.
Okay, makes sense.
At least what Misha, correct me if I'm wrong. You're saying we don't need all that stuff. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. I just want us to know how where the finish line is for supporting that, right?
Yep, that makes sense. The task should not be complete a full port of this right. AWS distributed lock. Yep.
Cool. Well, that was the last quasi-scheduled topic that I had pulled in. Are there other things? QP, do you have other things that you would like to discuss?
Nope. No. I think we have covered everything.
Anything else from the rest of you folks?
Nothing from my side.
Cool. Well, thank you all for joining. I personally found this productive. We'll continue the discussion in the Delta RS Slack channel, and I'll see you in a couple weeks. Have a good day.